I suppose that these applauses would be better after my lecture. I am sure that my office, ecclesiastical office, is much more eminent as my English. But I suppose also that all distinguished guests of this lecture are also very indulgent. The first, I express my gratitude to the persons who spoke before me, and I express a special gratitude for this commemorative sign of the University of Wisconsin, Stephen Points. Thank you very much, Mr. Chancellor. As the subject of my lecture, I choose the theme Catholic learning in Poland today. I begin with the first point, some introductory informations. I am happy to take up within the context of today's meeting the topic Catholic learning in Poland, since the subject is in many respects very close to my heart. After studies in Krakow and Rome, I did postdoctoral work in the School of Theology at the Jagiellonian University in 1953. I was and still am connected with the philosophy department of the Catholic University of Lublin, but because of many episcopal obligations, I no longer am directly involved in supervising scholarly work there in the area of ethics, especially of anthropology. On the other hand, I am chairman of the Episcopal Commission for Catholic Learning, as well as chairman of the Educational Council of the Polish Episcopate. Each of these bodies has as its aim concern for the development of Catholic learning, although each in a somewhat different way. The Commission is a working and service organ in relation to the Episcopal Conference in matters of Catholic learning in Poland, with particular consideration for institutions of higher learning of an academic character and also of major seminaries. On the other hand, the Educational Council, composed of the most competent professors and individuals in the field of Catholic learning, is above all a consultative organ. Frequently, it functions as an ecclesiastical commission for accreditation, as well as recognizing the degrees of autonomous specialist in foro ecclesiastico. In our situation, the existence of such an instrument is particularly important. The activity of the Commission for Catholic Learning and of the Episcopal Educational Council in Poland is recognized by the Apostolic See, that is, by the Congregation Pro Institutione Catholica, of which I am also a member. The affairs of Catholic academic institutions are of particular concern for this congregation, as recent documents give testimony. along with meetings of the congregation with representatives of universities and Catholic departments, that is, of academic institutions, as well as the preparation of a new constitution regulating their activity. A final word in this introduction is reserved for the organization which bears the title FIUC, Fédération Internationale des Universités Catholiques, the International Federation for the Catholic Universities. For our Polish academic institutions are also related with it. And several months ago, a meeting of the Presidium of FIUC was held in Lublin, as well as a separate meeting of the rectors of European Catholic institutions. So much for my introduction. Second point, a historical overview of institutions and structures of Catholic learning in Poland. I would like now to present some historical information which will at the same time lead us into the assets of contemporary Catholic learning in Poland, since it is a matter of institutions which serve it. A recently published multi-volumed work edited by Bishop Rechowicz, professor and former rector of the Catholic University of Lublin, under the title Historia Teologii w Polsce, the history of theology in Poland, points out all the facts and events in the field of Catholic learning in our country, which preceded the founding of the first Polish university in Kraków, 1364, as well as the first school of theology at that university, 1397. The first work generally considered to have been written by a Pole is Chronica Polonorum of Blessed Wincenty Kadlubek, Bishop of Kraków, my predecessor. And later, I am the 76th. And later, a monk at the Cistercian Abbey in Jędrzejów died 1222. The founding of the Kraków University, and in turn the theology faculty, was undoubtedly a decisive factor for the further development of Catholic learning in Poland. And now, leaping over many centuries, I wish to state that the network of academic institutions which Poland and the Church in Poland possessed after gaining independence in 1918 was to a large extent inherited from the period of the pre-partitions of Poland in 18th century. It suffices to state that in addition to the oldest school of theology at the Jagiellonian University in Kraków, a theology department likewise existed at the Stefan Batory University in Wilno. Also at the John Casimir University in Lwów, as well as one at the University of Warsaw. The most important event, however, was the founding in Poland of the Catholic University of Lublin, and this precisely at the moment of the gaining of state independence in 1918. All these institutions have their own identity and history in the period between the First and Second World Wars. The theology department at the Jagiellonian University has a unique one. It contributed to the renewed foundation of Polish culture, Polish consciousness among the Polish priests from dioceses which were previously within the sphere of the three partitioning powers, Russia, Germany, and Austria. The period of the Second World War and the horrible occupation brought with it the closing of all institutions, all universities, all seminaries, the arrest of professors, their transfer to concentration camps, a bloody blow of several years' duration to the assets of the Polish clergy and of Polish theology, together with the entire nation and Polish culture. At the same time, the period of occupation brought with it a particular effort in the direction of ensuring the continuity of learning and of a university education in the form of underground studies. I myself was a student of the theology department at the underground Jagiellonian University during the occupation. Taking 2.5 years of such studies and working at the same time as industry worker. After the conclusion of the Second World War, the theology departments in Vilna and Lwów found themselves outside the boundaries of the Polish state. The theology departments of the Jagiellonian University in Kraków and the University of Warsaw began their activity immediately in 1945. And earlier than they, already in the fall of 1944, the Catholic University of Lublin. In 1954, the state authorities liquidated the theology departments in the state universities at Kraków and Warsaw, creating at the same time, independently without any coordination with the Holy See, with the Apostolic See, for only to her does this matter belong, a new state institution under the name of the Academy of Catholic Theology in Warsaw. Because of these circumstances, this institution is without canonical foundation. But the Archbishop of Warsaw, it is Cardinal Wyszyński, received from the Apostolic See special power to canonically sanction degrees awarded by the Academy. The liquidation of the theology department in Kraków placed this large area in a difficult situation. It is the largest in Poland, and the highest number of students of theology is still in Kraków. In order to circumvent this difficult situation, the Apostolic See issued a decree on the strength of which the ancient Krakowian school of theology, founded already in 1397, thanks to the efforts of the Blessed Queen Jadwiga, exists hitherto in the ecclesiastical sense, and this is as the Papal Theology School, remaining exclusively under the authority of the Church. The question of the Krakowian department is a continually lively one for both the clergy and the Catholic Society of Krakow, as well as the entire episcopate, approach to the state authorities for the reparation of the wrong committed by the liquidation of the deserving School of Theology of the Jagiellonian University. The question of the Krakowian Department of Theology became likewise the point of departure for new enterprises in the field of Catholic learning on the part of the Conference of the Polish Episcopate. For if during the interwar period the Church in Poland had 5 academic institutions for the education of the clergy, so in the present situation it needs at least this same number of centers for this purpose. For this reason, in addition to Lublin, Warsaw and Kraków, such centers were organized in Wrocław and in Poznań. In Wrocław, the theology department was active at the university during the Prussian partition. In Poznań, we had the old school of Lubrański. A plan was prepared for a theology department at the State University of Adam Mickiewicz after the gaining of independence in 1918. But the creation of this department did not come to realization. Presently it functions as a purely ecclesiastical institution. As a result, five Catholic academic centers exist in Poland, but not all with the accordance of the state. Lublin with the Catholic University, Warsaw with the State Academy of Catholic Theology. We also have in Warsaw the parallel Christian Theological Academy, as well as the Papal schools of theology in Kraków, Wrocław and Poznań. A similar school of theology under the name Academic Theological Studium exists likewise in Warsaw, independently of the Academy of Catholic Theology. It is recognized by the Apostolic See as an ecclesiastical continuation of the theology department of the University of Warsaw. So in Warsaw the situation is the most complicated. Our major seminaries are in contact with these centers. According to the plan coordinated with the Congregation of the Holy See, Pro Institutione Cattolica, the major seminaries enter into agreements for scholarly cooperation with these academic ecclesiastical institutions. These arrangements make possible the acquisition of basic academic degrees, Master of Theology, by the graduates of our major seminaries under specified conditions. The Commission for Catholic Learning oversees these affairs. I must add that the number of seminaries in Poland corresponds more or less to the number of dioceses. Even the small diocese of Drohyczyn, the rest of Pinsk, has its own seminary. Only the rest of the Archdiocese of Lwów doesn't have. In Lubaczów. The seminaries or religious orders and of male congregations constitute a second group. The total number of seminaries for the education and formation of the clergy is approximately 60. A special task is the formation and theological education of sisters. It is also accomplished by some special institutes. For instance, in Krakow, the Higher Institute for Catechetic Formation of Sisters, connected with the theological school, the School of Theology in Krakow. Many seminaries stand very high in the field of learning. Among the professors, there are at least several so-called autonomous scholars, docent, that is, those having undergone postdoctoral work. Some seminaries have a magnificent publication record. Professors and lecturers who work in the mentioned institutions work in disciplines peculiar to the particular institution. These educators belong to special association or section of learning. These sections have scholarly conferences at least once a year. Some biblical scholars, for example, organize their own congresses. Once every 5 years, a Congress of Polish Theology is held. One will be held in Krakow in September of this year. I must return quickly to be there. The theme of this Congress is Theology, the Study of God. In 1971, the Congress held in Lublin considered the topic theology and anthropology. In 1966, Polish Millennium, the Congress also in Lublin considered the influence of Vatican II on theology. From a review of the activity of sections and the study of various publications, one can see a definite characteristic of contemporary Catholic learning in Poland. I will deal, for example, with 3 fields which are developing very intensively, perhaps more so than during the interwar period. These are history, philosophy, and biblical studies. When I speak of history as a field of Catholic learning, I have in mind primarily the history of the Church in Poland, which is at the same time a big chapter in the history of the Polish nation and of the Polish state. In this field, we have many works, research, projects, publications, and group initiatives, as for example, the Institute of the Historical Geography of the Church in Poland at the Catholic University of Lublin. We have monographs and works which represent syntheses. Our scholars also took part in last year's World Congress of Historians at San Francisco. This development of the interests and of the achievements of Catholic learning in the field of history has its basic justification in the fact that history is a need of a people when it finds itself living in difficult and critical periods. In such periods, Poles come to an understanding of their identity on the basis of their past. This is grounded in the specific national instinct, which does not allow for the approbation of a single falsification of own history, but which very resolutely seeks truth in this domain. This explains why a great need exists in the history of the Polish nation for the history of the Church. A distinct problem for historians became, in the last years, the question of the so-called regained territories, both western and northern, namely Wrocław, Szczecin, Gdańsk, and Warmia. I must note that the ecclesiastical structures on these lands are Polish in their origin. Suffice it to say that the bishopcy of Wrocław belonged to the metropolitan of Gniezno from 1000 to 1821. The second field, which takes on a particular meaning against the background of the contemporary worldwide situation, is philosophy. Marxism is the official philosophy of the present Polish government. Polish philosophical traditions of the last century, in particular, are characterized on the one hand by a tie with positivism, the Lwów-Warsaw School, and on the other with phenomenology, whose representative of the highest class was Roman Ingarden, Lwów-Kraków. Catholic philosophy develops in relationship to all these trends. It has its own traditional Aristotelian Thomistic profile. Added to it are the methodological aspects of the school of Polish logicians, such as Łukasiewicz, Tarski, and Ajdukiewicz. Polish Catholic philosophy also takes much from phenomenology. We observe all these orientations in Lublin, such professors as Kamiński, Krąpiec, Stępień, Styczeń, in Kraków, such as Jaworski, Stróżewski, Tischner. Though one cannot speak of a formal dialogue with Marxism, a formal dialogue doesn't exist. One can note in the writings of Polish Catholic philosophers a systematic handling of problems posed by Marxist philosophy, a pointing out of gaps, and a presentation of solutions, such names of Professor Kusak, Ślipko. Such a route leads to a deeper justification of the truth of the Catholic worldview. Philosophy plays a basic role here, whence its development and vitality. A special word deserves to be said about the research and discoveries in the field of the history of philosophy, especially Polish medieval philosophy. Research began during the interwar period by such scholars as the famous Konstanty Michalski, and has found such successors as Professor Świeżawski and others. Polish theology has strong ties with the speculative tradition of the Western theology. For instance, Professor Rzycki. It is also very sensitive to the currents of reinterpretation. It seems, however, that Polish theology manifests great reserve against so many Western publications and a correct relationship to the teaching of the Church, to the magisterium. A good sense. Deserving special attention is the great development of biblical studies. Perhaps never before did Poland have so many biblical scholars as now, and so many who underwent a reliable European schooling in biblical studies. This is apparent in many publications and in some kind of systematic process of biblifying entire theological learning. Biblical scholars of the Polish millennium translated the Holy Scriptures into Polish from the original languages. This is known as the Biblia Tyniecka, the Bible of Tyniec, Jankowski, Romaniuk, Kudasiewicz. The edition house of Palotinum in Poznań publishes introductions and commentaries to the individual books of the Bible. All that has been said about the state of contemporary Catholic learning in Poland in a way exhausts the topic. It is barely an attempt to point out certain, perhaps very characteristic features. Point 4, concluding characteristics. A Catholic learning in Poland, as has been seen, is a reality, and in no way a remnant. It is an authentic continuity of previous phases of development. It also attempts to be part of the current of the contemporary life of the Church and of the life of its own society. It has at its disposal a certain core and workshop. One cannot say that this core and workshop is adequate, but it is there. We are doing all we can to prevent ourselves from becoming marginal. We are doing all we can to prevent the further reduction of necessary needs. And such tendencies exist. They flow out of the assumptions of an atheistic system according to which religion in the new government ought to disappear. And if religion, then also theology and Catholic learning in general. The Church, from the nature of things, must oppose these tendencies. This explains the postulate of the 5 main academic centers mentioned before. Catholic learning in Poland, like all Catholic culture, demands the rights of citizenship in the life of our society. It does not want to be some kind of a marginal phenomenon. It does not want to be confined to circles of professionals only, that is, of the clergy. Now, the Church in Poland looks upon the education of the clergy as fundamental. The Church also considers the academic status of clergy a fundamental issue. That means social rights flowing out of completed higher studies, academic studies. Catholic learning in Poland also asks that it be allowed to have a real influence on the form of the entire present and future Polish culture. And here, our call and our workshop is decidedly insufficient. The one and only department of humanities, and this is numerically a meager one, is at the Catholic University of Lublin. We need more departments of secular studies. Even the old department of social sciences at the Catholic University of Lublin was liquidated after 1945. This is a very serious problem. It is a matter of forming a Catholic intelligentsia. We do the best we can through pastoral work among students and the university, as well as among the university and professional intelligentsia. This is hardly a direct method. Another lack we feel in the field of Catholic learning in Poland is the insufficient opportunity to be known outside of Poland. The works of non-Polish theologians and philosophers are known to Poles, but Polish theology and philosophy is very little known outside Poland. A foreign market is not necessary for the development of these sciences in Poland, but it is nevertheless a lack. I think that the Polish-American community could help in this respect. The aim of learning is the solid cognition of truth in every field. Catholic learning, through the realization of this aim, serves to deepen the human and Christian consciousness. The attainment of this aim is dependent of didactics, on teaching, on the transmission of knowledge. The Church in Poland is doing all it can to fulfill this function at various levels. In this paper, I have concentrated above all on learning at the university level. The problem of teaching is greater. It embraces the elementary and junior high levels. It also embraces, in some kind of sense, the post-university period, the education of adults. Under this aspect, the core and workshop of learning and of Catholic teaching is decidedly insufficient. It is not commensurate with the needs and the rights of Catholic society in Poland, which constitutes more than 90% of the citizens. Schools at all levels are almost entirely state schools. They were fully secularized. The study of religion and all religious externals were removed from them. The realization of this fact permits us to better understand how responsible and difficult are the tasks of Catholic learning in Poland. These tasks are an organic part of the Church's mission in Poland. One can look at the entirety of this mission, from a number of different viewpoints. If we could fuse all these viewpoints into a whole, we would get a broad picture of the life of Catholic nation in this new and difficult segment of its history. Let the segment analyzed here by me in a less than detailed fashion, permit us to look at the entirety in at least some kind of measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Cardinal Wojtyla, for your inspirational information and enlightenment about the health of the church in Poland. It's good to get a report that God is alive and well over there. Before we come to the closing of this, I just had a few things handed to me. Some more people in the audience. We have Mrs. and Dr. Justice Paul, Chairman of the History Department here at the University. Wherever you are. I don't know before if I announced Dr. Woodka. Did I announce him before? Dean of the College of Letters and Sciences. And we have Mr. and Mrs. Leonard Petrusky, who have worked quite a bit with the organization of this get-together. Have a round of applause for them. At this time, too, I mentioned earlier that there were many people responsible for the planning of this event, and names cannot be given because of the shortness of time. However, at this time, I would like all of those people, and I only met them a week ago, probably just a handful of them, who were in the planning and preparation of this occasion. The people who had to sell tickets, those who had to get in contact with various building people to get facilities to accommodate our crowd, and those who helped in any way. If you would all stand up, please, just to give this audience a view of how many people worked to put this on for you. They're all bashful. Trees, Grace. Okay, before the benediction, a few closing remarks I have is that they hinge on the importance of religion. It is said that most of us don't know how bad off we would be if it were not for religion. We should be like the little boy who was saying his prayers and concluded, God bless Mommy, Daddy, sister, brother, Grandma, Grandpa, Auntie Emma, and Uncle John. And please, God, take care of yourself, or else we're all sunk. It has been my pleasure to be with you this evening, and there is just one announcement to be made about the Mass at Spash. We are asked to use the west side parking lot. West. At this time, then, I will call upon Father Mieczkowski to deliver the benediction. Father Steve.
My height?
Yeah. Speak right into it.
Almighty and merciful God, in whose benevolent hands lie the destinies of nations and men, we suppliantly yet confidently invoke thy divine blessing upon this assemblage of God-fearing and humanity-loving men and women from many walks of life. We thank thee, Heavenly Master, for the countless favors and blessings bestowed upon us in the past, and particularly the cherished privilege extended to us on this day to attend and participate in the convocation, reception, and banquet in honor of His Eminence, Cardeal Karol Wojtyla, Archbishop of Krakow, Poland, and especially to be present and participate in the sublime liturgy of the sacrifice of the Mass, oftentimes called Eucharistic celebration, to be enacted this evening by His Eminence in the auditorium of Stevens Point Area High School. All of us deeply appreciate the great honor we are enjoying because of the visit of a cardinal from Europe. Unfortunately, genuine gratitude cannot be expressed in a simple few words. We entreat Thee, O Lord of infinite power and goodness, to bless and bless abundantly His Eminence Cardinal Wojtyla now and in the days to come. Bless, too, in no lesser measure, His Excellency Bishop Recking of La Crosse, the committee members, the distinguished guests, the venerable sisters, the venerable brothers, the reverend clergy in attendance and participation, the speakers, the officers and officials at all levels and in all categories, the personnel involved in transportation, accommodations, and communications, the directors, supervisors, and performers in any capacity, the musicians and singers at all functions, the members of food staff and service in all localities, the many, many participants and attendants who are contributing so much to the gratifying success of this outstanding event, which every one of us will never forget. We certainly wish to apologize for any omissions and assure you that said omissions, if any, are entirely unintentional. Now, with your gracious indulgence, ladies and gentlemen, let us digress for a moment from our local situation. Our distinguished Cardinal Wojtyla is scheduled to depart for his country, Poland, tomorrow. We sincerely wish him bon voyage and happy landing. However, if it is within the prerogatives of your benediction homilist, it would be my distinct honor to extend an invitation to His Eminence Cardinal Wojtyla to return to our great community for another visit in not too distant future. But today it is our earnest hope and fervent prayer that he would come as a representative of a free country and a free people. Whatever the future holds for us, for that great cause, we do not know today. We urge you and appeal to you and plead with you, dear friends, to pledge His Eminence your support for God's plan for every nation and for all peoples. May the blessing of Almighty God, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit descend upon us today and remain with you always. Amen.